Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tip Drill Podcast. I'm your host, Reese Holiday, joined as always by Xavier Pereira. And today we are coming at you with episode 2 of the podcast. We've got news to cover, we've got debates to go over, we've got a special surprise at the end of the episode. So stay tuned for the whole thing. Hope you enjoy. So the first piece of NFL news we want to cover today is updating you on Deandre Baker and Quinton Dunbar. Crazy situation going on. Apparently, their arrest wasn't the end of the story. Baker's lawyer, Patrick G. Patel, is apparently suing Dunbar's lawyer Michael Grieco, for a tweet that Grieco sent out saying that Dunbar was not at the house party where the alleged crime occurred due to a text message. However, this message was indirectly claiming that Baker was there. Leading to the lawsuit. Max, you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, they're suing for slander of character, if I'm mistaken. But this is such an interesting case because they're saying that Deandre Baker wasn't there, or they're saying Deandre Baker was there, that Quinton Dunbar wasn't. And then you have witnesses who say both of them were there, swap their story, and now they're coming back to the police saying that they weren't there. So this whole situation is just so crazy because nobody really knows what's going on because everyone's changing their story. It's insane.
Yeah, everyone's changing their story. Crazy situation going on. Baker and his lawyer Patel were apparently very upset with the tweet that Grieco came out with. Patel even saying, quote, "This stupid tweet has made it look like Baker has bad conduct. We didn't ask for this. We're not interested in suing lawyers. Baker wants to get back on the field, but if somebody's going to go after him, he's going to go after them. He's completely mad about the tweet, end quote. So just a crazy situation, lawyers suing lawyers. I really thought that Baker and Dunbar, from my perspective, would kind of be joining together on this whole thing, especially since they've been through it together. But that's not the case here.
Yeah.
Both of them going at each other. Just crazy situation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next piece of NFL news that we'd like to cover, more beef sort of between NFL players. This is Michael Thomas and Devontae Parker. Apparently, Devontae Parker commented on an Instagram post by NFL on Fox. The post said whether or not catching a pass while covered by Stephon Gilmore was harder, or breaking up a pass against Michael Thomas was harder. And Devontae Parker commented the letter A, choosing the Stephon Gilmore challenge to be harder, and Michael Thomas didn't take too kindly to that. X, you wanna go over that a little bit?
Oh yeah, just a whole debacle of just going back and forth on Instagram of all places, just for letting your opinion known. I guess Michael Thomas didn't take too kindly that Devontae Parker isn't a cornerback, because he was slinging. He was slinging, and then Devontae Parker hit him with something, and I think he was talking about, like, well, if I get 300 targets a game, maybe I'll have numbers like you. Oh, that made Michael Thomas pissed, man. He was
and
not
there's
happy.
an interesting statistic, too. Devontae Parker has a higher touchdown percentage, given that he has less targets than Michael Thomas. So you can kind of say that he produces more touchdowns than Michael Thomas, but both had a really great year last year. Just crazy that two wide receivers, not even a cornerback and a wide receiver, are going at each other.
Yeah.
Two offensive players. Michael Thomas even said that Devontae Parker can't even get a seat at the table, basically referring to the elite receivers being all at the table. So just another crazy situation of players just beefing on social media.
It's so crazy. It's so out of character, too. Michael Thomas, like, he's not really like that receiver you see on the news, the Odell Beckhams, the Des Bryants, those guys. You really don't see you see Michael Thomas breaking records, but you don't see him, like, being a diva receiver like that, which is really surprising. It's really out of character.
Yeah. As of late, apparently, some Twitter messages have been sending out. I haven't seen any, though, but people on the internet have been claiming that he's been doing this whole crybaby thing for quite a while now on Twitter, ever since the season ended. I guess he's just bored in quarantine or something. But
crazy
situation. Wide receiver versus wide receiver. More beef in the NFL. The next piece of news that we want to cover is um, on the free agency side. Devontae Freeman turned down a deal with the Seahawks. Now, keep in mind, Devontae Freeman didn't have too hot of a season last year. Had some issues with yards per carry. I believe it was less than 4.
Mm.
But he is, according to Adam Kaplan, Freeman turned down a 1-year deal from the Seahawks. He wanted more than he was offered, but I don't think he's going to get that, considering that the Seahawks recently signed Carlos Hyde. Actually, want to go over that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like he is trying to get a big Zeke contract without big Zeke numbers, which is really
Yeah.
interesting. But it's also depending on what the Seahawks offered. If they offered him like $1 million for a year, that's way too like that. He needs more money. He's obviously an older running back. He's a veteran presence in the locker room. I feel like if you do decide to pay him, it's gonna be around like 10 million. I feel like that's a fair number
Yeah,
for his numbers and his presence in the locker room.
yeah, even less than that probably, because him turning down that 1-year deal with the Seahawks definitely doesn't help his case with being
Definitely.
signed to a team. So we got more free agency news. The Jets, even though they started at a standstill with contract talks with Jamal Adams. They apparently don't want to trade Jamal Adams. I wouldn't want to trade Jamal Adams, one of the top safeties in the league. According to ESPN's Rich Kimney, he reported earlier this week that contract negotiations between Jamal Adams and the Jets was at a standstill because Adams wanted a deal before the season. Jets didn't want to give him a deal before the season. I guess they wanted to use more of his rookie contract. But Adams is, quote, open to a trade if a deal doesn't get done, leading more than half of the NFL teams to call the Jets, expressing their interest in trading for Jamal Adams. And I know the Cowboys were a hot team even before this whole trade thing started to land Jamal Adams. But apparently the Jets don't want to deal him. So actually want to talk a little bit about that.
That's so insane to me. You have a player of Jamal Adams' caliber and you don't give him the money he wants. I get it if he wants quarterback money, but I'm pretty sure this man is extremely smart. Like if you see him in
Mm-hmm.
interviews, this man is extremely smart. He understands the safety market and he's going to want around what Landon Collins is getting paid with the Redskins, around 24 million.
Yeah.
And you don't want it. This man is ripping quarterbacks out of rookie QB's hands and running them in for touchdowns. I know because that was my quarterback. So why don't you want? Why like this man is gonna leave. If you don't pay him, he's gonna leave. He's gonna
Yeah.
request a trade, and then you're gonna lose one of the best safeties in the league because it's insane to
Mm-hmm.
me. And if he goes to the Cowboys are going to have such a presence. It's going to be exactly like what happened when Minka Fitzpatrick left the Dolphins. They it's a different situation because Minka wanted to trade and they left, but Jamal wants to stay. He's been quoted saying he wants to stay. And I feel like if he goes to a team like, oh, say, Minka to the Steelers, let's say he goes to some place like, I don't know, the Cowboys, it's going to be a presence and he's going to do a lot better because of the support he has around him. I feel like this
And
team
I,
just doesn't understand that.
and I feel like the Cowboys would probably be a better landing spot for Jamal than on the Jets. They really have been struggling recent years, even though they drafted Sam Darnold. Sort of have a bright future coming up. I really just don't like Adam Gase. Being a Dolphins fan, he kind of ruined our rebuild, sort of. But I feel like if Jamal Adams does stay with the Jets, they would have to give him a deal before this season. Other than that, I think he's getting shipped off.
Let me ask you this.
Uh,
Name one other defensive playmaker on that Jets team.
See,
They
they
traded
signed
Leonard Williams.
yeah, they signed some players last free agency, C.J. Mosley, some other players, but just none of them that pop out like Jamal Adams. That
Exactly.
Pro Bowl, All Pro safety, just has got a nose for tackling. He can stop the run. Got that ball hawk presence in the backfield. But if they deal Jamal Adams, if the Jets deal Jamal Adams, you got to look at that team and think maybe they should just blow the whole thing up.
Mm-hmm.
Another piece of NFL news here. We got the Jets sign Joe Flacco to a 1-year deal, 1.5 million dollars. He's a 35-year-old. Speaking more about the Jets news, I don't think he plays any games this season. I think Sam Darnold starts all 16. but he's definitely going to be that backup. X, your thoughts?
Uh, I feel like people are taking this out of proportion. This is just the Jets signing a backup quarterback. People are like, why didn't they sign Cam? Do you think Cam is going to sign with the team for $1.5 million? No. Cam was looking for a decent backup starting job and to compete for the starter position in a couple of years if they do decide to give him a long-term deal. This is Joe Flacco not wanting to retire, so he's going to be a backup quarterback for a couple of years under Sam Darnold, which says something because it's Sam Darnold. So I feel like this isn't as big of a deal that people are making it because they're like, oh, why are you signing Cam over, or why are you signing Joe Flacco over Cam? I don't think Cam would have taken this contract. If I'm Cam, I'm not taking this contract.
Because Cam Newton, he's still got more left in him than Joe Flacco.
Definitely.
Obviously, more of an athlete than Joe Flacco. I feel like he'll have a job before this NFL season. With which team, I have no idea. No one even saw this Joe Flacco going to the Jets thing, so who knows where Cam will go. But he's definitely looking for a bigger deal than that. Speaking of bigger deals, Dak reportedly, now this is reportedly, he turned down a monster deal that would pay him it's a 5-year, $175 million contract, paying him $35 million a year. That would make him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, highest paid player in NFL history, beating Russell Wilson in his big Seahawks contract. This was reported by NBC Sports. However, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport stated that the Cowboys and Prescott's agent denied that this deal was ever offered to Dak. X, your thoughts?
I feel like this is Jerry Jones trying to tame the fire because I feel like in the beginning he was like, yeah, let's make the media go against Dak because this is how we're gonna make him get a smaller contract. Let's sign Andy Dalton to a deal just to make Dak put the pressure on Dak, you know? And now that the media, especially NFL analysts, they're like, yeah, pay Dak, bro. What the hell was going on?
Yeah.
I feel like he's like, well, no, I never offered him anything. Like, this isn't happening. He's trying to, like, push them. Because now it's turning on him. Now he realizes that he's probably going to eventually pay Dak $45 million because of his arrogance in not wanting to give him a decent contract at least. But
Dak is stubborn.
Dak is extremely stubborn. If he denied a $35 million contract, and what was the projected contract that he wanted?
He wanted at least $45 million a year.
That's $15 million more than what, or $10 million more than what Russell Wilson is making in a year. And do you remember the drama and the amount of just threatening to leave the Seahawks that Russell Wilson had to do to get that contract?
back and forth between ownership and Russell. Yeah, that was tough.
And you want to put Russell Wilson on the same level as Dak Prescott? It's just, no, that's not, you can't do that. Russell Wilson would have 2 Super Bowls if it wasn't for one interesting play, but he does have one in his hand, so.
Yeah, he's got a ring. Dak's empty-handed, so really interesting how Dak would reportedly turn down that big of a contract. People saying it isn't true, but with what's going on down in Dallas, I kind of believe that Dak would turn down that deal. He's shown to be extremely stubborn, and
especially with Jerry Jones, like his track record of overpaying just the most random players.
So interesting situation down in Dallas. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see if Dak. They recently franchise tagged Dak before this offseason or during this offseason. So we'll see if he gets a deal before the new season. If not, he will be playing on that franchise tag, probably for a contract year. All right, now we're gonna get into the debate section of this podcast. Speaking of Dak, going off of what we said about Dak and that big contract that he reportedly denied, X, do you think Dak deserves that contract?
No, I feel like this first off, if he ever does get that $45 million that he wants, this is going to disrupt every single team's this is going to disrupt the quarterback pool because now $45 million is the standard. This is what you pay your quarterback regardless. This is what you pay Blake Bortles. This is what you're going to be paying Andy Dalton. quarterbacks like this who don't deserve $45 million, in my opinion. You look at Dak, that he's so praised for his taking to the Cowboys, taking the Cowboys to the playoffs. But Dak has only won a game in the playoffs. I feel like if you take a team to the playoffs, you gotta the eventual goal is a Super Bowl, but every time he's made a playoff appearance, besides that one time, it's been a loss. And I believe he's taken them 3 or 4 times. So I don't understand this idea that Dak is elite when Dak is horrible under pressure. If you look at his PFF grade, can't rename it off the top of my head, but it's horrible. It's one of the worst in the leagues. Dak is horrible under pressure, and that means when his offensive line struggles, Dak struggles. When Zeke struggles, Dak struggles. If Amari Cooper is dropping anything, that's on Dak, because that's going to make his completion percentage lower. So I feel like if you take these major keys that the Cowboys have put around Dak, Zeke and his offensive line being the major ones, if they're in any way lacking, even if it's a little bit, Dak drops exponentially. Dak goes from this elite PFF quarterback who has the highest PFF grade among all quarterbacks, higher than Tom Brady. Yeah. Give me the offensive line. I'll have a higher PFF grade than Tom Brady, and I barely throw a football. So I don't understand why people aren't realizing that Dak Prescott has the greatest package around him that a quarterback could have. Before he lost Travis Frederick, that was probably the second best O-line under the Colts O-line in football. He has the highest paid running back from last season. Christian McCaffrey did get that big contract, making him the highest paid. Second highest paid running back in the league who still produces. He takes advantage of that offensive line and makes defenses struggle. And then when Dak... Do you remember the Bills game? Dak threw like 3 picks. He's supposed to throw 4, one back-to-back on back-to-back drives. Dak has great games against horrible teams. He's in the NFC East. He plays the Redskins and the Giants. The Giants have had a horrible defense after 2016. The Redskins just finally got a defensive playmaker. They traded their one defensive playmaker, Quinton Dunbar, and now this man is supposedly about to go to jail. So I don't understand what's going on. I feel like if I play the Redskins, this is me. This is me who's never been a quarterback in my life. I feel like I could do better against a line who doesn't let you get touched. You're mobile enough because you're under 28 years old. So he has Zeke, he has his legs, he has his O-line. So many factors where he could bail and he doesn't. He decides to throw. And this doesn't ruin his completion percentage because Amari Cooper, for some reason this year, decided not to drop any passes. He has Dallas Goedert. He has CeeDee Lamb, and he has Michael Gallup. Remember last year when he had Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, Michael Gallup, Dallas Goedert, Zeke Elliott?
Yeah, you're talking about the offensive side. You're talking a lot about that offensive side. But what about the defense of Dallas? They really struggled last year, and I think they lost them some games last year, not just Dak. Let me read off some stats here. They can't get turnovers. They're 30th in the league in interceptions last year. 20th in rush touchdowns given up. They've given up 105 rushing first downs, which is a 24.8% rush first down percentage. 25th in the league. This defense, you're talking a lot about the offense, you're talking a lot about the package that surrounds his offense. And Dak's a good quarterback. He got a 99.7 rating last year, almost 5,000 yards. But that defense really, really struggled last year, and I think that lost them some games. You look at the Green Bay game, defense gave up 4 rushing touchdowns to Aaron Jones. Dallas had a total of 563 offensive yards. Green Bay had 335. Green Bay still won that game. You got to look at the defense in that game and not Dak. Dak, he did get some turnovers that game, throw some interceptions, but that defense really took him out of that game.
But on paper, this team looks amazing. That defense had Byron Jones, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, Sean Lee.
On paper. On paper.
Okay, but if you look at the offense puts up like what, 17 points a game? What is their average points per game? It's not something crazy like the Green Bay Packers where they're putting up 30 on bad defenses. And if you have 500 yards on the Green Bay defense compared to your 300 yards, that's just showing that they give up more big plays. The big play potential on the Dallas defense, of course, is going to be better because their highlights isn't their safeties, it's their linebackers. If you want to show me Aaron Jones' rushing yards against the Dallas offense or defense, I'll take that. But when you have weapons like this, I expect you to be putting up 42 points up a game. Because you have these elite wide receivers, you have this elite running back, you have the supposedly elite quarterback, you have the second best offensive line in pro football, and you have a defense that can help you out by keeping a team to 300 yards a game, especially one as a high-powered offense like Green Bay is. So I understand that defense can lose you games, but it doesn't help that the offense either goes for a touchdown or one and done. They go 3 and out, or they decide to give a drive every now and again. Especially when you look at a team. I'm gonna continually use the Bills game because this was his worst performance. But if you look at the Bills game, Dak barely got out, gave the defense a chance to breathe. It was either Dak 3 and out or Dak throws a random Hail Mary touchdown, and it wasn't a Hail Mary, but it was just a random touchdown. And I don't understand where this perception that Dak is elite if Dak can't stay on the field. I feel like if you throw 2 passes and your wide receivers catch that, your completion grade looks good, but your points per game doesn't look good, especially when you have all you have to do is get your offense to the 5-yard line and hand it off to Zeke.
But Dak put up numbers last year. He put up numbers. Second in the league in pass yards, I believe, 4,902, 65% completion rating, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks, 99.7 rating, and your team's gonna go 8-8 record with that. See, I'm looking at this like this is more of a defensive problem rather than a Dak problem. Dak, although he may struggle in those games, I think there's better quarterbacks than him in the league. He definitely that defense struggled last year, and that defense really put him in some bad positions to win those games.
You want to know who also threw 30 touchdowns last year?
Who threw 30 touchdowns?
Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston threw 30 touchdowns.
He didn't throw
last
11
year.
picks, though. He threw 30 picks.
Okay, congratulations. He still threw 30. Congratulations. That's the same production level as Jameis Winston, and Jameis Winston had one of the most horrible offensive lines. So compare that to the production rate of Jameis Winston. I feel like that makes Dak look exponentially worse.
You want to talk about offensive weapons, though? Jameis had Mike Evans. He had Chris Godwin. He had O.J. Howard.
Yeah, but Jameis Winston had time in the pocket. Not Jameis Winston. Dak Prescott has time in the pocket. Jameis Winston, the second the ball is snapped, is running for his life, and man can see, so he's out here running around, hurdling over blurs of people, throwing picks. So compare the level of production. Both quarterbacks had 30 touchdowns, but you want to compare offensive weapons. Yeah, he has Mike Evans. He has Chris Godwin. Who's his running back? I don't know the running back's name. Who's their tight? O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard was injured, I'm pretty sure, this season. So God knows who their tight end was. And who's wide receiver number 3? Who's the slot corner that's supposed to take the heads off of defenses?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Exactly.
But for me, when I look at Dak and I look at his 2019 season, he had a good year numbers-wise. The record wasn't so good, but I think a lot of those games on that record could really be blamed on the defense or put on the defense. So with that being said, let us know what you think in the comments below. Does Dak deserve this contract? Does he not deserve this contract? Is it the defense to blame, or is it Dak not performing? Now, moving on, still keeping in the NFC East, I know you've got a lot to talk about this one, X. Can Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, can he make that next step in year 2?
Look, you when you look at was it 2018, 2019 draft, nobody believed in this kid. I personally didn't know much about the kid, so when I saw the pick, I wasn't sure. Like, I was like, okay, I like the pick because it's a quarterback. I'm not sure about his production level. I'm not sure about his ethic. I'm not someone who believed in Dwayne Haskins, but I accepted the fact that we were probably going to take him at 18 or wherever we had him. So this was a flip of the script, crazy, because I was like, okay, Josh Allen, Dwayne Haskins, and then just another defensive playmaker. Let's flip the switch, and now we take Daniel Jones at 6. So it's like, okay, I like it. I mean, I like a pick for quarterback, you know. And then this was just massive uproar of NFL analysts like, he doesn't deserve to be number 6.
Pissed.
Everyone was so mad.
Not even Giants fans got pissed. Like, the Cowboys fans were pissed.
It's like I get we didn't get Josh Allen. Whoop-de-doo. Josh Allen isn't the best edge rusher in Jacksonville. It's Unique Ngakoue, and a Unique wants to get out of there. So you see how productive Jacksonville is. So, and then he has this star-studded preseason game, because preseason games are just make or break. They're just the best. You're playing against second string defenses. He's the backup quarterback to Eli Manning, and then everyone's like, this kid's good. This kid's amazing. This kid is the best quarterback that we have in the. Shut up. Stop talking. And then they start Eli, and then all of a sudden it goes back to how bad Daniel Jones is, how bad the pick was. And then he wins against the Bucs, and it's like, I don't know what to say here.
And everyone was hating on him, and then he went, had a great game against the Bucs, and then everyone's like, Danny Dimes.
You look at his numbers, take away the fumbling problem, because this fumbling issue is something that can be fixed. It's not something that quarterbacks are plagued with throughout their career. He's already been stated that all he's been doing on the offseason has been working with his wide receivers and fixing his fumbling issue. He's working with a Duke quarterback coach, or not the Duke, a North Carolina, like well suited quarterback coach in North Carolina, where they're working the fumbling issue. It's something that can be fixed. Now, what cannot be fixed is his pocket presence. It can be fixed, but it's going to take a lot longer to fix it.
More than fixing the fumbling.
Exactly, because when you have an offensive line like the Giants had, it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't average. It was in the middle there. It was somewhere in limbo. They need to help this young quarterback develop, and I feel like the coach switch doesn't help. I feel like Jason Garrett doesn't help. I feel like he's smart enough to the point where he will strive in this new vertical, not West Coast style offense where it's throw it over the top of the defense head like Dallas has had. I feel like he's going to strive with that, because if you look at Duke, he didn't have any wide receivers. He had no help, and whenever he made a play, they would drop the ball. It's like they didn't want to catch it. So looking at his numbers this season, he was breaking records. He had 5 touchdowns in a game, I'm pretty sure. He was, I don't know, like 4 off the rookie touchdown record when he missed like 3 games in the season. 2 because he didn't start, and then 1 or 2 because he got injured, which is another reason for concern. He got injured, but that's Pat Shurmur. Excuse me. That's Pat Shurmur trying to make him look like Patrick Mahomes out there, making him run in the QB sneak set. So that's on the coach, in my opinion. Because if I'm Pat Shurmur, I'm not giving the ball to Daniel Jones to run a 1-yard line. He's not a Cam Newton who will push the line. He's like a Lamar Jackson, and I'm not comparing him to Lamar Jackson, but he's more like, okay, my pocket is broken down. Let me use my legs instead of trying to force something, which is something you need in a quarterback. So he's breaking records. He struggled, yes, in interceptions, and he struggled in fumbles. The fumble problem is being addressed. I feel like his once at O-line, because with the additions of Matt Pert and Andrew Thomas, these 2 players, Matt Pert is obviously he's going to need some work to become a starter in the NFL. But Andrew Thomas is the most ready, NFL ready O-line or offensive lineman that was in the draft. That's my personal opinion. I feel like a lot of people will agree with that opinion.
It was a good pick. It was a good pick.
I like the pick. I was just shocked that we took him that high, but it was a necessity in my opinion because I didn't think that the Giants were gonna trade up. So I took a second to realize that. I like Andrew Thomas. He's going to be a good left tackle in the NFL, and I feel like Matt Pert with just a little bit of progression in his because we did sign Mark Colombo, the offensive line coach for the Dallas Cowboys. So Mark Colombo working with these two kids is just going to be amazing. I feel like these kids are going to flourish in this system because it's going to be one where it's like, oh, the pocket broke down. Let's go to the next level because that's what these kids can do. Run blocking is another question. That's something that they'll have to work on. But pass blocking, I feel like these two offensive linemen will shine. I feel like Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley are going to have a great season. And I feel like the jump from year 1 to year 2 is going to be not a lot better because he did have a good rookie season. I just feel like the flaws and the mistakes that he made, they're going to be cleaned up a bit. I don't think he's going to have, 12 fumbles. I feel like he's going to have more like 6. He's going to have that because it takes time. It's not like a car where you can just like spit, shine, and polish where it's going to be working and you can just go and drive it. It's going to take time. These things take time. And when you switch the head coach, when you switch basically the whole offensive side of the coaching staff and the whole defensive side of the coaching staff, keeping only the special teams coach, I feel like it's going to be a little bit harder for him to understand the system. I feel like it would have been better if he stayed in the same system so he can perfect it, but he's going to shine in this year 2. It's a harder schedule, yes. He's going to play some good defenses. So this is a way to test him, see if this guy is your franchise quarterback. And I believe he is because of the numbers he's producing and of just what people use against him is easily cleaned up. It's mistakes he's making that he won't make again.
Now, speaking on those good defenses, Danny had a pretty good year as a rookie, considering that he was a rookie coming into last year. But when looking at those games that he did go against those good defense, you look at the Vikings game, you look at the New England game, the Chicago game, all good defenses. All of those led to poor performances. On the Vikings game, he went 21 for 38, 182 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. New England game, he went 15 for 31, 161 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Chicago game, 21 for 36, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. I believe in order for Daniel to take this next step in year 2, he's got to put up better numbers against those good defenses. He can't rely on Saquon too much. But he's got to finish those drives. He's got to limit those turnovers. And if he does that and that offensive line plays well, he's getting help from Saquon. I think he can take that step in year 2. But if he's not able to do that, then Daniel's going to struggle, and New York might be in the market for another franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. You can be over-reliant on the running back, but you also have to take into account, you said the Patriots game, the Bears game, and the Vikings game. I'm pretty sure he didn't have Saquon for any of those because, remember, he went out in week 3 in the Tampa Bay game and wasn't back until the Arizona game, which was towards the end of the season. So I understand that, and I feel like Saquon is a weapon, but you cannot become over-reliant on that guy because you can't make him... You can't give him every down because you got to pass it eventually. So
if you do that gives the defense, they're just gonna go run commit all day, and Saquon's not gonna get anywhere and possibly lead to another injury. So, in order for Daniel to take a step in year 2, he's got to perform better against those good defenses, limit those fumbles, and if they can really flourish in that system, him and Saquon. That offensive line, New York Giants should be a team to look out for in the next few years.
Definitely.
All right, for our last segment of the podcast, we are going to be we're calling it Too Hot, Too Cold, Just Right. We're going to be spinning a wheel of all 32 NFL teams. We're gonna pick which team. The wheel's going to pick which team, and we're going to say if they're too hot, meaning too overrated, too cold, too underrated, or they're just right. They're portrayed in the right way. They're going to be the record that people saying they are going to be. So get X, go ahead and spin that wheel.
All right, let's see. All right, I'll let you go first. You got the Patriots.
I got the Patriots. Now, from all of the stuff that I've been seeing, like the NFL Network putting out, like NBC Sports, CBS, they got the Patriots right in that middle pack, round that 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 record. Some of them being going lower with 6-10, or higher with 10-6. But I think what they're doing, putting them right in that middle pack, I think that's just right. Um, because you still have Belichick, even though you lose Brady, you lose Kyle Van Noy, you lose some of those free agents. You still got a good solid defense around you. You still got um, not really weapons on the offense. You got Julian Edelman, people that can perform, Sony Michel, not essentially elite players, but definitely some people that'll help Jared Stidham out, and him being a new quarterback in the league. So I think that record, that 8-8, 9-7, 7-9 record, I think that's just right for the Patriots.
Oh, nice. All right. Let's see what I get. I got the Chiefs. Oh, that's a. I feel like NFL analysts have these teams going back to the Super Bowl, and I 100% agree with that. I feel like this team was perfect, and they kept every offensive weapon that they had. They kept the system that works, and they took them to the Super Bowl. All they did was improve on it. They added Carlos Edwards
Declare,
something like that. Yeah,
that's going to be a good addition.
Yeah, he was the number one running back in his running back class, and you add that with everything that they have going on, I feel like it's going to work. I feel like this team is going to do even better next season. I feel like they're going to have a better record. I feel like they're going to probably be the number one seed in the AFC. I feel like they'll probably make the Super Bowl again, and then it should be interesting to see what they do with repeat going back to the Super Bowl.
So that'll be it for this episode. We gave you all the news that was going on in the NFL this week, gave you some debates, had a little surprise there at the end. Let us know what you all think about it down in the comments below, and we'll be back for next week.